Hey y'all. Hi. Hey. Look, we will soon be going live in the studio, but we live here. How y'all doing? Oh, you look good. Hey, call somebody, tell somebody, hey grandma. All right. Y'all know y'all don't know what that is, but everybody that knows is the ones who's supposed to know. All right, okay. Uh-huh. All I can say is see the movie, read the book. More on that. No, listen, over the weekend we had a great time because, hey, look,
Good morning.
I'm
good
pointing.
morning,
I don't know
Buffalo.
if you see me pointing. Go
I
ahead.
think we're live right now.
Oh, we live?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. We always go live on live before we go live in the studio. But hey,
Good morning, Buffalo. Definitely, it's been an exciting weekend, exciting couple of days. I got some good news happening to me over the week. If you don't mind me sharing,
go ahead.
it's different when you're in a station that's been known for so much. I'm around, DJs who are winning awards, Buffalo's best DJ. I'm around international speakers getting called out of not out of the area, out of the city. No, I'm talking about out of the country, going to the other side of the world. I'm calling him 12-hour difference. I'm sitting next to speakers who are awarded and really practical and intentional with their disciplines and their practice that they do. And so over the weekend, I got my first award, kind of not recognizing it wasn't the Nobel Peace, but it was an award that was very special to me. It was by a group of people that have really been believing in my journey. And it's the start, I think, hopefully, of many awards to come to show gratitude to those who have helped me along my journey and to feel validated. I know in society we tell ourselves, you got to be the boss, but sometimes it is just nice to be validated, to feel appreciated, and to feel recognized. So it was a great opportunity for me. Like I said, it was my first award. So if you look on LinkedIn at Austin Von Martin, it's gonna say award-winning speaker, because I had to throw it in there and get my make sure to change stuff. But I just wanted to kind of drop that news because that's something that's important to me. And I look at this station like a family. The viewers, the listeners are my family. So I want to keep you up to date on my journey. But if you want to get involved, like I always say, not only can you reach out on my website at www.austinvonmartin.com, but if you want to join the conversation right now, you on your couch and you can't wait, you can call in at 716-837-1112 and join the conversation. I'm gonna give it back to you, Jim. My bad.
No. I'm loving that. Hey, listen, it was a great affair. His whole family was there. Yeah, they showed out. And you know who ruled? Grandma. His grandma was there. She ruled. Now I may have to write a note for her circle of friends, because everybody gonna want to know who is that? What was you doing? And girl, tell me that. But I ain't gonna tell you on air, because y'all too be go telling it. But don't go tell it. It'll hit it. Don't worry. It might even hit the news. It might even be on the Buffalo News. Anyway, you should have seen Martin. I mean, Austin came. He was styling. Yeah, he was knotted down. He was representing. Hey, look, you already know he got the fly hair, right? I mean, everybody was checking it out. I know a lot of people, men and women, was like, whoa, they were digging how it rocks. Hey, it is what it is. It's rocking too. And they did a nice clip of him not only speaking before they gave the award. I mean, it was awesome. He said it was his first one, but I'm sure it's going to be many more. And look, you're talking about a room close to 500 people or more who were attentive checking him out and listening to him when they played the video about him. And it was just really beautiful. And like I say, it's going to be a lot more. You deserve that. In fact, this week has been a real week full of a lot of things. I need to tell you, let me give you an update. Because, a few weeks back, we had one of the candidates who's running in the Ellicott district. And there was originally a plan that was not a plan, there was an attempt. Open Buffalo was going to host a candidates forum. And it was going to take place on October 26th at the Meriwether Library. And it was going to be facilitated by the League of Women Voters. And everything was going good, but the only problem that happened was one of the candidates backed out at the last moment. And it's unfortunate, because when citizens, when communities want to see who is it, let's get them all on stage so we can hear what they bringing and what they propose so that they can better make a decision. When it's time to come before the people to talk about what you got and what you're going to do, I don't think you need to be backing out. I think the back out was an offense to the people, not to the other candidate, to the people who had gathered, who were going to gather and wanted to know what what do they bring to the table. And that it speaks to an assumption that too many people who run for political office who might get in assume that the position is theirs automatically and that they don't have to show up for anything because the clubhouse done got them in. Don't you be fooled. Don't you be fooled. This is not about political parties. This is about individuals that you want to represent your interests, and they have a right to come before the people. Aren't they running to serve the people? Then why can't they come before the people? Well, don't worry. There's going to be another opportunity for there to be a candidates forum, and it's going to be taking place on November 3rd from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., and it's going to be at the Meriwether Library. It is being hosted by We Are Women Warriors, and they will have Dr. Henry Taylor, who is the director of UB's Center for Urban Studies. He will be the moderator. And community organizations, other community organizations will be there providing community information. And they also will be bringing resources, and we'll have food and prizes for people who attend starting at 3 p.m. prior to the forum. Now that's on November 3rd, starting at 3 p.m. These community organizations will be there with all kinds of resources for members of the community. And then from 4 to 6, the actual community candidates forum will begin. And you should know this. All the candidates from Ellicott, Maston, and University districts have been invited to attend. You have Pastor Michael Chapman, you have Democratic elect Leah Hope, you have those two are going for the seat in the Ellicott. In the Maston, you have Murray Holloman, Gina Davis, and Zanetta Everhart. They are running in the Maston district. And in the University district, you have invited Catherine Franco and Rashid Wyatt. Now, this forum will not be canceled. If a candidate chooses not to come out and speak to the community, the forum will go on. But I'd like to add a personal suggestion to any candidate. You're not above the community that you're running in, and you owe it to the community and yourself to show up. Now, what you say when you get there is on you. But this disrespect has got to stop. There should not be a struggle to hold a candidates forum. And you should not be weaponizing it against people who want to hear what you represent. So I'm going to leave it at that. And just remember, November 3rd, be there at 3 p.m. if you want to get some of the resources being offered. And know that from 4 to 6, the forum will begin and will go forward. So I just want to drop that because I mean, it really undermines democracy. And don't let anybody tell you different. And don't let any candidate that think they're above you and can skip talking and talk about what they represent, they're not worth your vote. I'm telling you, they're not worth your vote. And again, it's not about any political party. It's about a person running to represent you without speaking to you, without putting their plan on the table. You can kick that to the curb. Jim said that. That Jim said that, okay? So y'all get mad at me. Anyway. And moving on, we're in a very terrible moment around the world, but here at home, we got to hold a peace with each other because we got a city that we still got to recapture and make it work for all of us. It isn't, but if we work together, we can get it where it needs to be. Now, that's all I have to drop. except to tell you we do have a guest schedule. If you saw the Facebook page, you saw it was Devon McCune, who is from the Push Buffalo's Grant Street Neighborhood Center. And it's an awesome center. It offers a lot of programming for young people. And, perhaps they'll make it. And even if they don't, you know what we do here? We carry on. And like Austin said, if you want to get in, just call us 716-837-1112. And you can join in. And you can throw in your topic. We'll take you on. Austin ready to take you on. He said, "What you got?"
I got a question right now for you.
Go ahead.
I know we were just talking about recapturing the city. We're talking about political change. And I think for a lot of people that run for the office, sometimes when you start running, you think that it's going to be just an overflowing well of support. Because when you start something, people will have you believe you got a lot of people on your team until you turn around and realize a lot of them weren't really running with you.
Mm-hmm.
Or you start running, leading the charge, and then you like, whoo, it's a little cold. Where are my people blocking the wind? You look around and it's just you running. And I think a lot of people sometimes get disheartened or they want to disqualify themselves. And like we said, what they'll do is they won't drop out the race. That's unbecoming. They just won't show up to any events and say they tried their best. And so what I want to ask is when we talk about a city that needs change, that wants change, how do you prepare people for the process of change? And I mean it more in this sense. We know that change isn't easy. It takes a long time. So why do we tell people that it's not going to? Why do we tell people that it's going to be easy and the people get surprised? People always seem surprised when change is difficult. And I think I'd actually like Mama, like you actually to weigh in because you've done change, you work with people. Talk about, you're looking at even the STEAM Center, right? We think it's going to be easy, and then we start doing the little pieces and people aren't qualified or prepared for change. How do we prepare a people? If we're talking about the Buffalo population and people are running for office saying they're going to do this and that and change this and that, how do you think you prepare and adequately, not warn, but, before you go on a trip, you got to tell someone what to pack. Hey, man, be aware it's going to be cold this week. Bring a coat so that when they're out there and it gets cold, they're not surprised. Same way with change. How do you prepare people adequately for the process of change and how long that journey can take?
That's funny. So just to put context in, and so that I'm showing that I'm talking about this with authority, that's what I do is change management with organizations, helping people prepare for change. And I think one of the mistakes that leaders, whether it's in business or politics or wherever you're going from, think that if I describe this change, it can't be that hard. Why can't people just get on board because it's good for them? And what I realize is that with change, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes on in people's heads we could all say that the change is we're now going to say that we're going to paint all the street signs orange instead of red, because we just know that orange paint is cheaper. So everybody in the business group says, that's great. We should change all the signs to orange because the paint is cheaper. But then they forget that people have been conditioned to see red signs and what a red sign represents to them. So no matter how big or small, what leaders will do is say, well, I don't understand. We just changed all the signs that were orange. Yeah, but it's a lot of people that drive on autopilot. Meaning that I think that's how a lot of people navigate through life. We're on autopilot. So when a leader comes in and says, I want to change this particular thing for the city of Buffalo, I want it to be cleaner. What they're not thinking about is even if you put a garbage can every 2 feet, but I'm conditioned to eat a Snicker bar and throw it on the ground, and there's no consequence change to that, you could have 30 garbage cans in front of somebody and they're going to walk past them and still drop stuff on the ground. Why? Because they've been conditioned in autopilot that there's no consequence if you drop a wrapper on the ground. Whereas if you go to other neighborhoods that have what they call HOAs, home associations, and they walk around and say, okay, we put these garbage cans in here, but even if somebody drops trash on your lawn and it wasn't you, I'm fining you, homeowner, because we have a policy now that people can't walk through the neighborhood dropping trash on the ground. And I think too often in different environments, we don't think about the bigger picture of the changes that we want to have with people. And I hope I wasn't giving complicated examples, but there's a cultural expectation that has to happen beyond just the words.
And I think that's super insightful. And I actually even want to hear your opinion, Jim, on the advocate side. You're talking on the business side because you dealt with numbers and people, and that's what you do as a career. But when money ain't involved, and it's just about you should be here because it's an important cause. How do you get people on the mindset? When we look at, and I think we had a great era of change in America. I don't know if we could have did some of the civil rights movements that we had back then to the same level today, because I don't think people were prepared for that process of change, and money wasn't involved. It wasn't a business then. It was that I want better. No, it was life or death. I get that. But there are a lot of things that we say are life or death right now. Police brutality is a real danger. We can only get people out when other people are doing it. But you won't, like, I don't want to go back to the riots, things of that nature, but everybody's involved. Now it's fun because it's trendy and I can get a hashtag for it. But if I just said come out on Saturday to support people walking this change, I don't think I get the same turnout that I did back in the day, because I think people were prepared for change a little better back in the day. So I'm asking, on the advocate side, when money isn't involved, when it's not forced upon you, when it's not a boss, when there's nobody screaming down your back, how do you get people to understand the importance of change and come out for a cause?
Mm-hmm. Well, I come from a lot of different directions. First one I think about is really what the scriptures say, who undertakes the building of a building while considering its cost. So when you think about change, it's just like your mother said, you got to think about all the things that will affect that change. So whether you're going from a red sign to an orange, you got to think about people conditioned to seeing red. So we got to think about what impact might that have. And then, I think there's the thing of responsibility. Mm-hmm. I mean, people aren't blind, especially adults. They know. I mean, look, you can't get to an adult and say, well, I didn't learn nothing along the way. We push it into young people.
You better put that mic close to you.
We push it into young people. There's a book that said, everything I needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten. We learn how to respect one another. And as we go along, we learn from those who know, who teach us how to build certain things. How do you cook? How do you prepare things? It really is simple. I honestly think that a lot of people practice what I call excusiology. Yeah. They always got an excuse about why they couldn't, and it's always somebody else was in the way or nobody told them. Well, when you want to learn something, don't you go seeking? Don't you go trying to find out how do you do something? And don't you also in the process try something? You try something. So I would say it's a two-way street. It's sometimes about having the cost to be able to pay the bill for what it would take to change something. But the other is also knowing within yourself whether you're doing good or whether you're doing wrong. People know that. There's no one, I don't think anyone can excuse themselves. And I think that in some more definite ways, if we're trying to change, let's say, like right now, the political climate, you got a lot of people that think ain't nothing gonna change, so they don't vote, which is foolish. And nothing won't change if you don't make an attempt. I'm one that I use the old baseball analogy. When you have a bat in your hand, it's not whether you hit the ball out the park, it's whether you swing. See, if you swing and strike out, I can tell you how to adjust. If you don't swing, what does that mean? It might mean you don't even want to play. So we got to show that we want to be in something. And one of the things about changing the dynamics of the political thing, if you ain't registered to vote, you ain't in the game anyway. Right. And that's one of the problems. So we got to wake some people up who think it's a joke and haven't gotten it, aren't participating, because it's part of what undermines us all. Hey, there's a call coming in, but call is on. Even as you come in, we will eventually get to your phone. But let me tell you, our guests are in studio, and as they get ready to rock the mics with us, let me just say, welcome, brothers, and Austin, myself, Latasha, and hey, when you're ready to pop, just introduce yourself and then we can kick into. Let's talk about what you're here to represent on. And I'm like digging them shit. I'm gonna pop my shirt on today, brother. You know. But anyway, Austin.
Absolutely. So it's a pleasure to have you guys in the studio today. And I know that with the political things coming up in Buffalo and that change is needed, it's organizations like y'all that help people get on the same page. Because like we were talking about before you guys came in the studio, changing people is difficult, right? We're creatures of habit. And when people are conditioned to do something, when people are conditioned not to vote, when they're conditioned not to speak up, when they're conditioned not to hold their political people accountable, it's difficult to get people to. So can you guys kind of, I know we're just getting in here, but you guys can tell us how you guys are doing today, but just talk about why what Push Buffalo is doing, why what you guys are a part of is so important for the city.
All right. So thank you so much for inviting us. Oh my goodness, Jim, it is always a pleasure and a blessing. Thank you for being a mentor. Thank you for all the work that you do and the path that you've paved so young men like us can continue to do the work that we do. My name is Davon McCune. Kids call me Mr. M. And I am the program manager for the Grant Street Neighborhood Center. And this is one of my teaching artists, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Thank you. I'm Blackstar. I go by the name of Blackstar Mac. I'm an esports teacher, hip hop choreographer, esports teacher. I do a lot of different things when it comes down to the art world, making music, drawing, playing the piano, all different types of things. And I push in the part of the GSNC, which is the Grand Street Neighborhood Center. I'm the esports teacher there.
Hey, bad. Let me tell you, these some bad brothers, and I'm not just talking stuff, listeners. I'm talking real deal. And the work that they're doing, all you got to do is drop over at Grant Street at the Grant Street Neighborhood Center, and you'll see the magnificence of their work. I told Austin and I told Latasha before y'all arrived, I mean, not only do they do decoding, jewelry, fashion, taekwondo, and school study, just holding families together. And I mean, the diversity of the young people. They deal with folks that a lot of people want to go past and overlook a lot. Young people, you know about that. And I mean, what they're doing, look, if you're talking about a rising tide, not only are they rising, but they're here and now, just like you. And it's an honor to have them both here with us. And we're in for a treat because this is deep stuff.
I appreciate it.
We got a break already? Okay. Okay, we're going to a break and we'll be back.
You're still on live. If you want to share,
yeah, we're still live in our room right here. On the other. So anything you want to fly with? Yeah, gotcha.
Man, I don't know the difference between being on live and not on live. But, again, Jim, you got a crew. This is sweet.
Right.
Last time that I came on here was just me and
you.
So
dig it.
To see the growth, and I love the living out intergenerational movement. And we really need that at that time, and that's something that I've been passionate about for my entire career, but also it is something that going into 2024, it's going to be a focus mandate of the Grant Street Neighborhood Center, and I'll be calling it the GSNC for short. So to be able to see that is a blessing. And sorry. I need to go put that on what's the name.
Them talking watches?
That is an Apple Watch.
Excuse me.
But man, so voting is important and voting is vital. And I think a concept that I would like to talk on is and Jim heard me speak about it a little bit, at our breakfast fundraiser, is love the good, and we care about our community, we hate injustice, what I'm saying, and I can hear the passion and the apathy of our community towards voting, right? But Within that, that can't remain, or I believe that can't remain and be our fuel. I think we got to love the good. And when we love the good, we can craft a message to our community, to our brothers and sisters. And how can I help show you a new way? How can I craft a message in which I need you to vote because I love you? I need you to vote because you love your children. I need you to vote because you love your grandma. You know what I'm saying? I need you to vote because I grew up on the east side of Buffalo, near Bailey and Delavan, 59 Man Heart, 14215. It is in my heart, it is in my blood. And I care about each and every one of y'all. And if we are going to change this, then what we can do today, the first thing that we can do today is register or vote. Now, after that, I feel because I have a consciousness and an awareness. And in the great words of Marvel's Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility. And so because I have that consciousness and because I believe having this consciousness is a power, we want to continue to spread that.
I'm going to actually pick up right after. We're right back from the break. And again, before we get in too much, if you do want to call in and talk to the guests or just add a piece, you can call in at 716-837-1112. We were talking about something very important because the difference between anti and pro. Now, we're going to go black for a second because that's the easiest way to explain it. But this is pro-black. You know what pro-black is?
Yes, sir.
Black excellence. But it's also anti-white. And that's the difference. Because when whatever you're rooted in order to be successful, and you have to keep one-upping yourself. So if you're rooted in hate, even if you're saying, I love black people, but I'm angry at blank, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be the white man. Anti-anything is not good. Because the more you fall into that, you have to get more and more anti to get that same draw, that same love. And when you go pro-black and it's about love, me winning doesn't sacrifice from anybody else. We can all win. I'm just focused on mine. And so looking at that, the flip side, we were talking about voting. Right, just people who have an apathy for voting, who are against voting because they use voting it's a negative to them, right? And sometimes they can use voting as, I'm going to vote for this because I don't want this to win. I'm going to vote for this because I don't want these people to get this.
Right.
What we're trying to get to is voting for the good, like you talked about. I'm voting because I love my community. I'm voting because I love my brother. I'm voting because I love my friends. I'm voting because I care about the potential for this community to be revitalized. I'm voting because I love my family. And we can get to a place of love where we're voting for the good. Well, now, like I said, when you're rooted in something good, we need to get better and better and better and better. And that's where we want to get to. So can you talk more on your perspective on pro and being voting for the love, like you said, loving the good?
Yeah, thank you for that, for the handoff. And
Gotta get close to the mic.
Oh yeah, you can rock this. You can move it too.
Thank you. There we go. We good?
Yes.
Oh, my
It's
man.
the booth guy. He gonna tell me. I'm telling you what he
My
tells
man
me.
in the booth. Shout out to the man. He got me correct so y'all can hear me. Again, we're back on the air. My name is Davon McCune, or Mr. M, and I'm the program manager at the Grant Street Neighborhood Center, and we're going to call it GSNC for short. And I want to make sure that I connect our work and what we do to our conversation. And so it is our mission to help our young people transform themselves into compassionate, committed community members. Now we're talking about love, right? We got to have compassion. We have to have compassion. We have to have grace and understanding that our lived experience doesn't allow us to know any and every situation that people go through. And so when people are hurting, we got to give them that grace. That is just the humanness of life. Then committed. We're living in a time of social media and 30-second clips. A minute click on TikTok.
15-second clips.
15 seconds, you know what I'm saying, where everything is going. And where we want to jump from one thing to another. But how can we commit it? How can we be like the great Nipsey Hussle and run this marathon? And the marathon keeps going. And then community members. What does that mean? What does that mean for me to be a part of a community and a part of a family? There has been a systemic attack on the Black community. There's been a systemic attack on families that has now infected every demographic. So it's not just our community, but it's every community. So how can we rebuild these social bonds? And in doing that, I'm gonna come back to how we being pro-Black and how we move forward and how we step away from the anti. I believe that there is that I want to guide with love and with harmony, but I am not ignorant to the pain that our people have gone through
That's right.
and what they're doing. And so, if you do have that anger, let it be righteous anger. Let it be a cold anger. And how can we use this? How can I bring this to the table? If that's the only, if right now love is not in your heart, but we can use that, then how can I bring that to the table and be like, hey, I got a target for you and we're going to use it. And then when you burn out, I'm going to come back with open arms and then let's get some healing going on. And then now let's re-explore this concept of love and loving the good. And I think the way that we message, in my experience, I think that there are more people that are in my sphere of influence that do not hate voting or the process, but they have been so disconnected. We have been so many generations disconnected that they don't even have it within their consciousness until we have the Super Bowl voting, like the presidency. Blackstar.
Preach, because I'm one of those. I am one of those. To be sadly be said. It's just a disconnect. It's not the fact that I don't want to. It's just never consciously there. Like the time of when it comes around, it's not in my thought process to like, oh, it's time to vote. Because I don't hear it anywhere. I don't see it anywhere. You know, like unless it's told to me, I don't even remember that it exists.
And some of that has a cultural impact that come from adults. I mean, you have heard a lot of adults say, ain't nothing going to change.
Right.
And so when you're young and growing up and you hear this often, that's saying you might prescribe to, ain't why should we vote? Ain't nothing going to change.
Right.
And those things can have an impact, and without having that degree of love to understand that some people may not be where you at in your understanding. And so you have to be patient with them while you continue to do what work you can to grow them forward. And that can be very tedious, very challenging. I mean, look at all the great Black leaders that have gone ahead. It wasn't like everybody with them. Right here in this city, when coming up in just 2 months, everybody going to be hollering about how they down with Dr. King. And when right here in the city, many of them didn't support him. Didn't even want him here. And I'm just saying, you have to go through that, because even when you at that point of knowing what's good and want to do what's good, I mean, the adversary, the forces that want to work against you ain't sitting over there twiddling their thumbs, say, well, Austin trying to do something good, we ain't going to mess with them. That's exactly when they're going to mess with you.
Right.
Because they don't want you to get anybody healed, to wake nobody up. And if they can, they're going to vilify you.
But I think one of the things that he said, and I'm not even on, can I use
Yes,
one of the
you
mics?
are.
I think one of the things that Devon said is real. So the question I asked for you is, growing up, did one of your parents take you in and did y'all discuss voting? Did they walk you in and talk about, and even before that, did they prepare you and look at all the candidates and do the research as a family and have those conversations before they just went? Because it's great for the gram to take your kid in and say, we're voting, but did they do what I saw growing up, which was having deep conversations about each candidate and some information about them before we took the picture for the gram, because we can all say,
Right.
I took my little kid in and we're voting, but did they do more than that? Because that's the question. I think when you talk about it often, we're always reacting. We're not planning and strategizing.
Right.
So the situation with the family, that goes back a couple of generations ago.
Right.
And so even when I tell Austin to grow up in a 2-parent household, both parents working and still like doing non-traditional, like I stayed home with them for a period, I don't think that's normal. And I was talking to a young lady the day before. She said, yeah, my husband said I could stay home. I said, yeah, and that's going to be a challenge. Don't talk to your family about that, because we don't do that. But we did that. And so I'm just saying, when we look at situations, we can't just look at surface level, because the finding that goes back to some fundamental things that we take for granted. And it's the last thing I'm gonna say, because this is not my show. It's called we're reacting to dysfunction has become a norm.
Right.
And so dysfunction, we've accommodated it. We haven't fixed the root problem. So for me, when I'm getting older, I'm starting to say, I need to stretch more. I need to move more. I'm not going to get on no medication. My mother's 80. She's on 1 pill. But that's not normal.
Right.
And so here we go.
So with
What is he doing? Stretching more and moving.
so you know,
And even when I say it, people think I'm crazy. Chiropractor, stretching,
right.
that's not what we do. They looking at me like I'm crazy. When I go to the mall at 8 o'clock, 6 in the morning, it's a whole mall of who? Don't nobody look like me.
Right. So with that being the case, I want you to ask that question one more time on what you wanted from me.
So the question I'm asking is, when we talk about the breakdown in the family, when you said you don't think about voting, did you grow up in a house where your parents discussed candidates with you and then took you to vote? And then as they were there, even holding them accountable. So I don't like elections for a whole nother reason.
Right.
But I'm going to leave that question be clear.
So to personally answer that question, I was never with my parents from birth. So never with my mother, never with my father. Didn't even know who my father was until 22. And I met him one time ever, and I don't even remember what he looks like. My mother, me and my mother, we never really had a good type of relationship. So what I'm saying is, to answer that, I was raised with my grandmother and then taken to a foster family, into another one, and then to my grandfather, and then to my aunt, and my uncle, back to my grandmother. So I've been like all over. Like I've never like really like been in like one stable place for too long. So that I feel like to answer that part, there's not a real family thing with me. Like, you know, obviously, you know, having sisters and brothers and aunts, uncles, and so on and so forth, but never really had like a really heavy bond with anybody, you know, particular. The most time that when I was doing voting and so on and so forth was back in middle school. So this is back in 2005 to 2008. They're the ones that helped us vote. They're the ones that, you know, that brought all that information to us. After that, in 2009, once I got into high school and Obama became president, even in high school, they never even brought up voting. They never mentioned that information ever again. So like once it happened through 5 through 8, I never heard that information anymore. So it was never like, you know, and it was never locked in. There's actually a song called "My Vote Don't Count" by Yellow Wolf. It was a very powerful song. I believe it came out maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. I would like to say sometime in between that. And he goes through the reasons why he don't vote and the information that people probably don't remember what each branch does. Because one of the biggest things that he mentioned in that song is that we will look at the president, even though they don't make all of that. It's everything else, the judicial, legislative, everything else when it comes down to getting food stamps and what happens with that. That's a whole nother thing. It's not the executive branch that's doing anything with that. And if anything, I feel like that song helped me because I remember it. Like if I ever think about voting, that's the first thing I'm gonna think of because it helped me understand more information about voting that I didn't know about. But that's the reason why, you know, that whole information with me and the disconnect between voting, it's never there, it's never presented, and if it's out of sight, then it's out of mind.
And I think even with the system in which voting was introduced to me, I'm very similar. The high school I went to wasn't big on voting. When I was in middle school, though, that's when we had like the class president things that I did.
Right.
And the thing that I kind of got from that system was that, this is just about who's popular. Because you really can't change nothing. And so when that's my whole image or experience of voting in my life before I turn 18, it's like, what do you, I can't. The teacher, I can't have that party. The teacher said I can't. So you're limited by the system. And so it puts voting in this, like, if I had the time category, because I don't know what you guys can do to change. And I think bigger than that, when we talk about not being experienced with voting, I think a lot of people don't understand how voting correlates to what they need to do. You guys are talking about the president. I need to pay my rent. Right. What are you talking about? But we don't understand how, if you can make changes legally, it can affect your regular life. And that's why when you look at outside of presidential elections, I still don't think most people understand what a city common council does. So why would I vote for it? They're trying to do their thing and live their life, and they might think in their mind the president fixed potholes. Right. So they're never going to come out to that election. They don't really know how that correlates to where they want to get to in life. And when you're looking at a younger population, like he said, it's a 30-second world. So if you don't in 30 seconds explain to me what you're gonna do tangibly for me, or what this position tangibly does for me, it's out of my mind because I'm trying to make it happen myself. I'm rather than think about go for city common council. I know a lot of young kids who would say, "Oh, I gotta fix potholes. Let me go buy some asphalt and fill it in myself." That's what they would think before they think, "Let me go get somebody office who can."
You
It's
want to know
not in our mind.
something? You guys want to know something crazy? You know how you said 30 seconds? That's not even a reality. You got less than 10.
Yeah.
You got less than 10. If your first 3 seconds don't grab somebody, you lost them. That's what type of world that we're in now, especially with social media and the internet being as powerful as it is. All the information is on the internet, but people will always ask other people first for information before they go to the internet. I do this. I'm pretty sure we're all victim to this. We'll ask somebody something before we search Google when Google damn near has all the answers. And again, with me, as being a content creator, when it comes down to video gaming and so on and so forth, whether on TikTok or YouTube, the analytics that allow you to see like how much time people are watching and everything else from that point moving forward. If you're not capturing those people within the first 3, if you can catch them within that first 3, they might watch the next 10. And that's only if you have a story that is willing to grasp who's watching. So there's like a whole formula to the whole social media world to help you capture and grasp the eyes of people. You know, coming from 3 seconds to 10, 10 to 15, and then 15 to 30. And with that being the case, you want to know how the internet looks at it? So give me a random video length, anywhere from 1 second to 45.
40-second video.
A 40-second video. All right. So now, if someone looks at that video, so you're going to get a view, right? Somebody looks at the video, you get a view. With that being the case, from a 40-second video, let's say, give me a random time that they decide to stop watching that video between 1 to 40
10
seconds.
seconds.
10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So someone watches that video for 10 seconds and stop. That's a whole 30 seconds that they did not watch that video, and that video will not be pushed out. Because you know why? It did not retain viewership retention. And because no one looks at it, no one's going to want to watch it, so they don't push it. That's how powerful the internet is when it comes down to grasping those people.
If you know the science, and excuse me for
fine.
jumping in, if you know the science, then it can be a very powerful tool. But if we're using it just for just to share our food, or I use Facebook for the birthdays to help me remember. I got so many friends and so many family, it helps me remember. Then we're not getting the full power of it. And also, when you're doing the community work, whether it's yourself volunteering, nonprofit, or even people trying to do good in government, there is not resources allocated to market and to do that in a meaningful and impactful way. And so there is a lack, and it's like, how can we shift the consciousness and be like, M&T, it's dope that you want to give me money for programming, but also I need resources so I can get the message out. And I need you to give me the support like you give small businesses and entrepreneurship. Allow me to mess up. Because I'm a nonprofit don't mean that I'm going to get it right the first time. Exactly. I need you to allow me to mess up so I can come back and be like, okay, now we got a different plan. Let me work with your marketing team. Let me work with small business developments that are at Buff State so that we can come and do this correct. And now in a year or two, now we have honed and we can come correct every time and be intentional and strategic with our social media use. And is it all right if I jump back to your question? Thank you, Black Star, for sharing that, for being open and being vulnerable.
Yes.
In our community, it's not always that way. A lot of people is whatever stays in house, it keeps in house. But when you share, we can learn from each other's pains and strategy. And I want to pivot that back to the Grant Street Neighborhood Center, GSNC. Our teachers, Black Star is born and raised in Buffalo, New York. So our kids are seeing their faces
94.
from teachers that look like them and have lived their experience, so that they can create that relationship. And we're using that relationship to be the catalyst for them to change. And so our youth are just like Black Star. Now, all blessings be to God. I am an anomaly. I am a statistic. I had both of my parents. My parents were together since they were 14. I was born and birthed in love. This is my foundation. This is why I almost have an inexhaustible, insatiable amount of force, so I can keep going and doing what I do.
Preach.
But when it comes to voting, we went to church.
There it is.
And they, when the politicians visit, one in New York, we are blue, so they're going to be Democrat. And when they come in, the last couple of people you see, that's who you remember going into the booth. So I was given the experience of going into the booth with my parents. I was given the experience of we're going to pull the lever. But as far as the study of it, the critique of it, how will this help us? Do they know what they do besides maybe potholes, garbage pickup? If we have a blizzard and whatever problems, what's the name? We don't know. And so even if you do have the ideal situation, a lot of times we were not blessed to have that. And there's a disconnect within our politicians who have generations of families that have been in politics, because they may look down or they may not, but the way that they talk and the way that it feels is like they look down on us, like we should know, or you should look it up, or you should research. But in fact, the only reason why you know is because you had one person that instead of being entrepreneurial, ambitious, they were like, yo, that's not my lane, but politically ambitious, I may not get the money, but I see the power and I see what I can do in this. And these boys was ruthless. And now they're training people, not because they're like, yo, I want you to be a good community member. It's like, I'm training you so I can build my network and build my team. And it's like, you knocking on doors this year, and then next year, you're going to be a committee member. And then a couple of years after that, you're going to be a councilman. And then a couple of years after that, we running for the county. And then if it runs the way that I think it's going to run, you may go up into state government.
Preach.
And then somebody mess up and they be like, oh, I give up. I tried to pass the baton. No, you didn't. You tried to control somebody's legacy so that you can keep it going in the way that you envision. And you didn't even trust the younger people to be able to give some ideas and to do some things. And so systemically, we have been disadvantaged.
There's a caller.
Oh, hello, caller.
Caller, you should. Oh.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Okay. I was calling, like, in general, was talking about the topic. So what it is, so when we first got kidnapped from Africa, they wanted to bring us down to the lowest. And at first, for slavery, it was good on their side, but bad on our side. But the main issue is the reason voting is not that important to young people, because they don't know all the blood, sweat, and tears that our ancestors went through. They don't know that. There was a time people of color were not allowed to vote. They were getting killed. They don't recognize that. They're sitting inside the office. You can have a person of color. They can have like a PhD in a document. You can get a person, they could just have a high school diploma, Caucasian. They get inside because of their color. What did Muhammad Ali say? It's the complexion. That's what it is. But the main thing and stuff like that, these young people do not realize and stuff like that, how far we came and how our ancestors tore down a lot of walls for us. We just standing up there laughing at each other, grinning at each other with these baggy pants and stuff like that, and brown bottles, you know what I mean, inside brown bags, drinking out of smoking, getting high. They do not know the true meaning, how far we came with the main thing and stuff like that. A lot of blood was lost behind that, a whole lot. And that's all I just wanted to say.
Thanks for sharing that.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
If I can answer from the younger perspective, I don't think it's a disconnect. We understand that the road we traveled was long. I don't think that my ancestors or my couple generations older were living great, like it was just amazing. We were walking everywhere, just hey, what's up? I don't think it was how it is today. I think what young people just see is where it got us. Like I think it worked, it was good, but we're not enslaved anymore, and we're still struggling differently. It's a different struggle now. So I think that even though maybe if we had a better understanding for the interconnectedness, like we always talk about, the intergenerational trauma that we're struggling on, how it's similar, I just think a lot of young people think it's different. And when we're talking about civil rights, that's one thing. But we're not talking about civil rights anymore. We're talking about thriving. We're not surviving. We're talking about thriving. And I think for a lot of people, we see that as two different processes. And like I said, if y'all could, if people who are more experienced, who have lived more, could explain how, no, it's still the same. Or like I talked about before you guys came in here, how the changes that you guys had to make to get voting right are the same that we can use to be successful, then we may be able to listen more. But I don't think it's that we aren't aware of where we had to get here. I don't think we're not aware of the journey that it took. I just think that we're confused as to the journey it's going to take to get where we want to get to.
I think I'd side there, and something you said in Africa that made a huge point when you talked about a 40-minute clip, and people only listen to 10 or 40 seconds. They're going to go with 10 and all the other that don't get played. I think there's a vested interest for everybody to understand why they need to be participating in the electoral process, whether young or old. That's how your power is built. Young people need to understand that. Look, do you know if you're in a community center, some of these things that you want for an after-school program is all tied to the electoral process. So if you're not aware and conscious of those connections, you may think you don't have skin in the game, and it doesn't matter. And then when you take the misinformation that has passed on in history for so long that said, oh, ain't no use in voting, that's not true. I'm going to stop there because we got a call.
Can I say something
before
we accept the caller? So real quick, I want to say that you are gifted and intelligent, and that is not all of our young people's lived experience. There is a whole swath of our young people that do not know, that are severely disconnected, and what it feels like is white noise when people talk about it. And from where they're coming from, and from our families being broken, and all of the other stuff that comes with it, how am I supposed to acknowledge where we came from in our history when you won't acknowledge what I'm going through in my present?
Okay, we're coming now, caller.
We got 5 minutes and 2
calls. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to be brief. I just want to say that the struggle continues from civil rights. It still continues. But I want to focus on or acknowledge the difference between the lawyers at that time during civil rights. They had a different mission, a mindset. Today's Black lawyers, they seem to only focus on the money part of it, okay? They're not trying to make that kind of change, okay? And there's a lot of, good lawyers out there, NAACP, those lawyers and things like that. But, you have a lot of lawyers Black lawyers, that are only focused on the bottom line, the money, okay?
Gotcha.
And a lot of us can't afford that. And so I just want to make the comparison, okay? The struggle is real, and it continues.
Yes,
okay?
indeed.
It's just that, pardon?
Go ahead.
I just want to make that point, and I'm out.
Well, you made that point. Caller, you're on the air. Caller, you're on. Go ahead.
Hello, Mr. Anderson.
Hey, Dr. Doyle.
I'm fine. I'm sorry I'm calling so late. I have a new essay contest for our youth. And I'm asking the young people for their opinions on what's going on in the community when it comes to violence. Now, the essay contest deadline is November the 6th. And I have a prize of $100 for first place, $75 second place. So the young people can, it's in the calendar. If you go to page 8, it's top of page 8 in the calendar, and I will have flyers out for young people, and they can contact me at the Criterion newspaper for more information. This is my 150th essay contest, Mr. Anderson.
Question.
Congratulations.
When you say youth, what are the age ranges that you're talking about?
Students in high school grades 9 through 12.
Okay.
Okay. I usually do it for the high school. Sometimes I do essay contests for adults, and I fund them myself. I pay the money myself. I've been doing this essay contest for 20 years because I want to hear from the young people. sometimes we do not give them an opportunity to voice their opinions. That's my goal in doing this. Okay, this is Dr. Doyle, a retired Buffalo educator. Thank you for letting me announce it.
Thank you, Dr. Doyle. And let me just say, our guests that we're having, we're going to have them back because we know it ain't enough time. And we know that the subject that they already broached that we need to give them more time to rock. So I'm shutting up and turning it back over to Austin.
I'm going to just say one last response to what you guys said, and then I'm going to let you guys have the last couple of minutes to say your piece. And like you said, we'll get you guys back on another time. That white noise you talked about is so true. If we have 3 seconds to capture your attention, and the first 3 seconds you say, the young people are missing in these areas, you're just like everybody else who just keeps telling me where I'm suffering, but you're not giving me no instruction. And the same process, the same journey you want us to take is not the same. It's not, because times are different. And you're talking about times when you can go to college and work a regular job and pay for it. And I'm talking people who are drowning in college debt and don't know what to do. You're talking about when houses were affordable. I'm talking about unaffordable housing, right? So we're not talking about the same thing. And the same energy you had when you got home from your shift to go to your local station and listen to your politician talk, I need to go to make some money because I'm drowning. It feels like I'm drowning. And we all recognize the times we're in are terrible. But yet, when it comes to younger people, we don't talk about it with the same intensity. We don't talk about it. We're not listening to the same intensity. So you're talking about voting, and I'm trying to survive. So it is still a fight. And like you talk about, when that white noise hits and I'm not listening because I feel like you're not listening to me, I don't want to hear nothing else. So I'm going to give you guys, I know we're about to end out, but y'all can say whatever y'all want before we hand out, and then we'll be back next week. Real quick.
This is center. The problems that we're talking about is complex, like the multiverse, and we have to have patience and grace as we move forward into it and be flexible with the new problems. My grandmother was a sharecropper. When she passed away in 2019, then she had an iPhone. How is she supposed to prepare us for the iPhone? They had no phones back then. Right. So let's have grace as we move forward.
Wow. Listen, this is a deep, complex conversation. And here's what I want to say, one thing for sure, and the scriptures speak to it. There was a generation that knew, and the generation that came after that didn't know, and people said, shame on the generation that knew, that didn't know. But really, it's the problem of the generation that knew, that didn't teach. So you think about it. It ain't on the young folks' shoulders. It's on the old folks who didn't teach. And old is just a word. I ain't talking about an age. Those who know, teach.
Right.
We out of here. Have a great day. Love.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for having me.